He thought his power would keep him safe. He thought no one would ever dare challenge him. But when Pam Bondi found out his secret, everything changed. Pam Bondi had seen tough cases before. As Florida's Attorney General, she had gone after some of the worst people: corrupt politicians, dangerous drug cartels, and criminals who thought they were untouchable. She had spent years standing up to powerful people, never backing down. But in this case, this was different. She sat at her desk, flipping through a huge folder filled with important papers. There were bank records, interviews, and sworn statements from people who had spoken under oath. The deeper she read, the worse it got. At the center of it all was a judge, someone who had sworn to follow the law, to be fair, and to do what was right. His name was Judge Victor Langston. He had sat in courtrooms for more than 20 years, making decisions that changed people's lives. On paper, he was perfect, a well-respected judge, a man with a clean record. But Pam Bondi knew better. Across from her sat a man named Jake Donahue. He had once worked inside the courthouse as a clerk. He had seen things that made him uneasy. Things that most people would have ignored, afraid to speak up. But Jake wasn't like most people. He had come forward, risking his job, his safety, and his future to tell the truth. Pam leaned forward, her eyes locked on him. "You're telling me that Judge Langston has been cheating in cases for years and no one noticed?" Jake exhaled slowly, rubbing his hands together. "People noticed," he admitted. "They just looked the other way." Pam's face didn't change, but she felt anger rising inside her. Jake continued. "He was careful. He never took cash directly, never left a paper trail. But I saw things. Important case files disappearing. Decisions that made no sense. The same powerful people are winning over and over again." Pam studied him closely. Whistleblowers like Jake were rare. And the ones who stuck with it, no matter how dangerous it got, they were even rarer. She tapped the file in front of her. "Give me examples." Jake nodded. "Okay. Last year, a man named Miguel Santos was caught in a real estate scandal. He lied. He scammed people. He stole millions of dollars. He should have gone to jail. But Langston threw out key evidence. He said it was mishandled. Next thing you know, Santos walks free." Pam flipped through the file until she found Santos's case. She read over the judge's reasoning. It was weak, at best, corrupt, at worst, and Santos wasn't the only one. She found more cases. A corporate executive caught cheating in the stock market. The charges? Dropped. A rich businessman with secret bank accounts overseas. His case? Dismissed. A criminal found guilty by a jury. Judge Langston? He overturned the decision and let him go free. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a pattern. And all the clues pointed to one thing: money. Pam looked up. "What do you know about Langston's finances?" Jake hesitated. "That's the tricky part. On paper, his bank records look clean. No sudden big deposits. No flashy new cars or expensive vacations. But I dug deeper." Pam leaned in. "And?" Jake lowered his voice. "I found secret bank accounts, offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, and real estate, houses and properties, bought under fake names." And he hesitated. "I think someone is protecting him." Pam's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Jake shook his head. "I don't know yet. But if you dig deep enough, you'll find them." Pam sat back in her chair. She had fought corruption before. She had taken down powerful people. But this wasn't just one corrupt judge. This was a system designed to protect the guilty. A system that silenced anyone who got too close. And her gut told her something else. If they were right, Langston wouldn't go down without a fight. But Pam wasn't afraid of a fight. And this one was just getting started. Pam knew that proving Judge Langston was guilty wasn't the hard part. The hard part was surviving the battle that came next. She sat in her car, parked just a block away from the Hillsborough County Courthouse. The Florida heat made the windows fog up. But her mind was somewhere else. Inside that building, Judge Langston carried on with his normal routine. Wearing his black robe. Acting powerful. Pretending he was fair. Her phone buzzed. Detective Mark. She picked up. "Tell me you found something." His voice was quiet. Careful. "Pam, you're not gonna like this." She straightened in her seat. "Try me." He sighed. Jake was right. Langston has hidden money. 3 different fake companies all linked to offshore bank accounts. And guess what? Every single one is connected to a case he ruled on. Pam's grip tightened on the steering wheel. She had seen dirty money before. Money moving through fake companies, secret bank accounts, hidden transactions. But Langston had been careful. Too careful. She took a breath. Is it enough to open an investigation? If we can prove that one of those payments led to a court decision, we have him. There was silence. Then Mark added, "There's more." Pam felt a sinking feeling in her stomach. "Go on." "One of our sources says Langston knows we're watching him. He's moving money. He's getting ready to run." Pam felt a small victory. Their pressure was working. But that also meant something dangerous. Langston wasn't going down without a fight. She hung up and grabbed the folder from the passenger seat. It was time for the next step. Pam walked into the courthouse. Her heels clicked against the marble floors. The building smelled like paper and old wood, a place where justice was supposed to happen. She had spent years in courtrooms like this, believing in the system. But today she knew the truth. The system was the problem. Jake was waiting outside Langston's courtroom. He looked nervous. "You're really doing this?" he asked. Pam nodded. "We don't have a choice." Inside, Judge Langston sat at the bench, listening to a trial. He looked calm, in control. But Pam knew the truth. She took a seat in the back, watching. The way he spoke, the way he pretended to be fair. It was all an act. As soon as the trial took a break, she made her move. "Your Honor," she called, stepping forward. "I need a moment of your time." Langston looked up, irritated. "Miss Bondi, I didn't know you were involved in this case." "I'm not," she said. "But you and I have unfinished business." The courtroom emptied. Lawyers packed their papers. Pam didn't move. Langston sighed, stepping down from the bench. His voice was lower now. "If you're here about that nonsense from your whistleblower, don't waste your breath. You have nothing." Pam smiled. "We'll see about that." She handed him a folder. Inside were bank records, secret accounts, hidden business deals, proof. Langston's face stayed calm. But Pam saw it. A flicker of fear in his eyes. He opened the folder, scanned the pages, then shut it. "This means nothing," he said. Pam crossed her arms. "Not yet," she said. "But it will." She turned to leave, but before she reached the door, Langston's voice stopped her. "You are making a mistake, Pam," he said. She looked back at him over her shoulder. "No, Robert. You made a mistake. And now the whole world is going to know." Pam Bondi had faced threats before. It was part of her job. But the way Judge Victor Langston said it, "You're making a mistake, Pam," it didn't sound like just a warning. It was a challenge. She walked out of the courtroom and into the hot, sticky Florida afternoon. She pulled her phone from her pocket and didn't wait. "Detective Mark, I need to meet you. Now." 30 minutes later, Pam Bondi sat across from Detective Mark in a small, dark diner on the edge of town. The coffee was awful, but they weren't there for the food. Mark placed a pile of papers on the table between them. "This is everything we found in the last 24 hours, he said. "Langston's fake companies. They're connected to some very powerful people." Pam flipped through the pages. She recognized the names, big business owners, CEOs, even politicians. Some of the biggest cases Langston had ruled on weren't real justice at all. They were just deals, verdicts for sale. "He's not working alone," Pam muttered. Mark leaned in. "That's what I'm trying to tell you. We're talking about millions of dollars being hidden in secret accounts, moved through fake businesses. Some of these cases should have put criminals in jail for life. Instead, Langston let them go free." Pam's jaw tightened. A corrupt judge was bad enough. But a whole network protecting him? That was something much worse. But there was something more urgent. "You said he's moving money," she said. "Where is it going?" Mark hesitated. "That's the problem. He's covering his tracks. Some of his secret accounts were emptied last week." Pam's eyes narrowed. "If he's planning to run, we don't have much time." She pushed the files aside. This case was bigger than she had expected. "Then we force his hand." Back in her office, Pam called Jake Donahue. He answered right away. "You were right," she said. "It's not just Langston. He's part of something much bigger." Jake let out a breath. "I told you. And if you're seeing what I saw, you know how dangerous this is." Pam leaned back in her chair. "I need more. Something that ties him directly to a bribe." Jake hesitated. "There's one thing. But it's risky." Pam didn't blink. "Go on." "A former court clerk, Lauren Tate. She worked for Langston for years. Then, a few months ago, she suddenly left. No one knows why. But I heard she had information on him." Pam tapped her fingers on her desk. "Where is she now?" Jake's voice dropped. "She's keeping a low profile. I don't think she wants to be found." Pam's mind was already working. If Lauren worked closely with Langston, she knew things. Important things. "I need an address." Jake sighed. "I'll see what I can do. But Pam, be careful. If she has proof, Langston isn't the only one who wants to keep her quiet. The address Jake found led Pam to a small house outside of Tampa. The front yard was overgrown. The porch light flickered weakly. She knocked twice. No answer. She knocked again louder. "Lauren Tate, my name is Pam Bondi. I need to talk to you." The door opened just a little. A woman peeked out, tired eyes, a worried look. "Go away," she said. Pam didn't move. "I know you worked for Judge Langston. I know you left suddenly. And I think I know why." Lauren's grip on the door tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do," Pam said gently. "And I think you've been carrying this secret alone for too long." Lauren hesitated. Then, with a deep sigh, she opened the door. "Come in," she said. "But if anyone asks, you were never here." Inside, the air felt heavy. The blinds were shut. The only light came from a small lamp in the corner. Boxes sat near the door, half-packed, like she was ready to leave at any moment. Pam stepped inside carefully, watching Lauren's every move. The woman wasn't just scared. She looked like she was being hunted. "Sit," Lauren said, pointing to an old couch. "Say what you need to say, then leave." Pam sat down, keeping her voice steady. "You worked for Langston for years. You saw things. You know things." Lauren let out a bitter laugh. "You think I don't know that? You think I don't wake up every day regretting what I saw? What I ignored?" Pam learned it slightly. "Then tell me what you know." Lauren crossed her arms and let out a sharp breath. "I kept the books. The secret ones. The ones that never made it to the courthouse records. I saw where the money came from. Where it went. Who benefited." She shook her head. "I knew it was wrong. But when it's your job, your paycheck, you tell yourself it's not your problem." Pam didn't react. She had heard excuses before. But Lauren's voice shook, and Pam saw it, the weight of guilt she had been carrying. "I wanted out," Lauren continued. "I told Langston I was done. That I wouldn't, be part of it anymore." Pam waited. Lauren's voice dropped to a whisper. He smiled. He said, "People who quit on me don't last long, Lauren. Think about that before you make a mistake." Pam felt her stomach twist. Lauren wiped a hand across her face. "A week later, my house was broken into. Nothing was stolen, just trashed. My tires were slashed. My cat disappeared." Pam clenched her jaw. Langston wasn't just corrupt. He used fear to keep people silent. Lauren disappeared into the next room. When she returned, she held a small flash drive. "This is what you're looking for," she said. Pam reached for it, but Lauren pulled it back. "Listen to me. If you take this, you need to finish what I started. You need to make sure this man never wears a judge's robe again." Pam met her gaze. "I promise." Lauren hesitated, then placed the drive in her hand. "Everything's on there, transactions, case notes, conversations. Enough to bury him." Pam closed her fingers around it. "Then that's exactly what I'll do." But as she walked to the door, she had a feeling. A bad feeling. Langston already knew she was coming for him. Pam Bondi sat in her office, staring at the flash drive in her hand. It was small. Ordinary. But what was inside was huge. Lauren Tate had just handed her the key to exposing Judge Victor Langston. Hard proof. Secret bank accounts. Wire transfers. Case notes. Even conversations that should have never happened. Pam took a deep breath. It was time to take Langston down. Pam plugged the flash drive into her laptop. The files popped up on the screen right away. Rows and rows of words and numbers filled the screen. And then she saw it. A record from 3 years ago. A name, Miguel Santos. He was a real estate builder. He had been in trouble for lying about money, but the case had been dropped. Another name, Richard Dane. He was a rich man who made money in stocks. His case had also disappeared. Pam's heart started beating fast. It was all here. Every case Judge Langston had been in charge of. Every time he had taken money to change the truth. She knew Langston hadn't done this alone. Too many people had ignored the truth. But right now she has only one job: stop him. She grabbed her phone and called Detective Mark. "I have what we need," she said, her voice strong. "Meet me at the courthouse tomorrow morning." Mark didn't wait. "It's happening," he said. The next morning, Pam walked into the Hillsborough County Courthouse. She walked with purpose. She wanted Langston to see her. She walked through the halls, passing lawyers and clerks. They had no idea that in just a few hours, everything was going to change. Inside Courtroom 3B, there was another fraud case happening. A business had stolen money and Langston was the judge. He would probably protect the guilty person again. Pam sat near the front. Judge Langston sat high up in his chair, wearing his black robe. He looked calm as if nothing was wrong. If he was worried, he didn't show it. The lawyer was still talking when Pam stood up. "Your Honor," she said loudly. Langston looked up. "Miss Bondi, you are not the lawyer for this case. Sit down." "I have something important for the court," Pam said. She pulled a thick folder from her bag. The room went silent. Langston's face became stiff. "You are out of line." Pam didn't move. "Robert Langston, you have broken the trust of this court, the people of Florida, and the very meaning of justice." A soft whisper spread through the courtroom. Langston held his gavel tightly. "This is crazy," he snapped. "Bailiff." But before the guard could do anything, the doors at the back of the courtroom swung open. Detective Mark walked in, followed by 2 federal agents. Pam stepped forward and placed the flash drive on the clerk's desk. "This drive has proof," she said. "It shows secret bank accounts, illegal money deals, and cases that were changed for the wrong reasons. Every case you took money for." Langston's face turned pale. "This is a lie," he shouted. Mark stepped forward. "Your Honor, we have a warrant for your arrest." The room gasped. Pam watched as Langston's hands clenched into fists. His world was falling apart and he knew it. His voice was low and angry. "You think this will last? You think they will turn on me?" Pam looked him right in the eye. "They already have." The bailiff stepped forward. The courtroom, which had been his for so many years, now turned against him. As the handcuffs clicked around his wrists, Pam saw something new in his eyes: fear. But she wasn't finished yet. The air in the courtroom was heavy. Judge Victor Langston, the man who had controlled so many lives, was now standing still as the officers locked him in handcuffs. For a moment he didn't move or say a word. The silence stretched. The weight of his fall was heavy. Then, slowly, he turned his head and looked at Pam. "This is a mistake," he growled. His voice was steady, but Pam could hear something underneath: fear. She didn't blink. "No, Robert. This is justice." The courtroom exploded. People whispered in shock. Some just sat there, too surprised to move. The once powerful judge was being taken away from the very bench where he had once ruled. As Langston walked past Pam, she saw something in his eyes. Not just anger. A warning. "This isn't over," his eyes seemed to say. Pam stepped outside into the hot Florida sun. News vans lined the street. Reporters shouted questions. She kept walking. Before she could get to her car, Detective Mark caught up with her. "Well," he said, letting out a deep breath. "That was something." Pam didn't stop. "It's not over." Mark nodded. "You're right. Langston is just the beginning. The money, the people involved, it's bigger than just him." Pam stopped and turned to face him. "Then we keep going." Mark looked at her closely. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Pam thought about all the people Langston had hurt. She looked straight at Mark. "I wouldn't be here if I wasn't." 3 days later, Langston sat in a small room at the Tampa Federal Detention Center. His fancy suit was gone. Now he wore a plain prison outfit. He looked smaller now, older. Pam stood behind a glass window watching. Mark walked up beside her. "He's talking," he said. Pam raised an eyebrow. Mark nodded. "Not everything. Not yet. But enough to make some powerful people nervous." Pam crossed her arms. "He's making a deal." "He's trying," Mark said. "Names, money, secret meetings. He wasn't just a bad judge. He was part of something much bigger." Pam didn't look away. "Then we bring it all down." Inside the small room, Langston turned his head slightly, as if he could feel Pam watching. For the first time, he wasn't the one in charge. Corruption isn't always loud. It doesn't always come with sirens and flashing lights. Sometimes, it hides in the voice of a judge, in the stroke of a pen, in the weight of a gavel. But real justice finds a way. Pam had seen the system fail. She had seen people twist the law to help themselves. But she had also seen what happens when the right people refuse to give up. And that is what brings justice back to life. Bad people stay in power when everyone is silent. But silence is a choice. If you see something, you have to do something. If you enjoyed this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more exciting stories filled with adventure, mystery, and unforgettable moments. Your support means the world. It keeps these stories coming and the creativity flowing. Trace for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.